Hey everybody, welcome and welcome to the public attending. This is the City of New Bern Municipal Service District Advisory Committee regular quarterly meeting. And I would like to ask Kim to please take the roll.
David Barthol.
Here.
Sabrina Bingle.
Here.
Gretchen Dupiza.
Here.
John Harrelson.
Here.
Von Lewis.
Here.
Mickey
I
Miller.
am here.
Michael Raines.
Here.
Johnny Robinson. Carol Stubbs. Michael Lee.
Here.
Karen Sullivan. Alderman Pearl.
Here.
Alderman Royal. Foster Hughes.
Here.
All right, thank you very much. At this time, due to my error, I overlooked it. I did not add the financial report. We've been having so many workshops, so we don't do the financial report at our workshop, but at our regular meeting, we are supposed to have a financial report. So I need a motion to amend the agenda to include a financial report.
So moved.
And Nikki? Gretchen, did you make that?
Yes.
You made the motion in second. Nikki? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so in your packet is a financial report, and I'll turn it over to Kim.
So if you take a look at the, your first page should be the provisional comparative balance sheet report ending July 31st, July 31st, 2024. This is provisional because we're in the progress of completing our fiscal year 23-24 audit. Once that's complete, then these will be final statements for fiscal year ending 2024. If you take a look, for those that haven't read this yet, across the top, you've got the fiscal years over there on the right, 2025, 24, 23. Those are for historical and comparative purposes. On the left, you have the balance sheet classifications for assets, liabilities, the deferred inflows and resources, and then net position. What this report tells us, if you look at 2024, is that our total net position ending fiscal year 24 with assets minus liabilities and deferred revenue is $2,048,665. And then the 2025, we're ending, we haven't had much activity obviously in July, so we're ending in 2025 with $2,017,667. That's our net position for July 31st.
So fiscal year 25, just to make sure
Yes.
everybody's on the same page, public as well, starts July 1 of 24 and goes through June 30 of 25, correct?
Yes.
All right, just everybody make sure.
The second report is our budget to actual report that shows the changes in that position as well. And again, this is provisional until our fiscal year end audit is complete. Along the top, you have the fiscal years for historical data and comparison purposes. The 2023 is actual, and then 2024 is actual of what we have to date. So that's why it says estimate because we're in audit. The FY25, you'll actually see the budget, the actual, the comparison, and the percent of the budget left, or used, I'm sorry. And then to the left are our budget categories, which is the revenue and expense categories. So if you take a look at the total interest earnings is $22 for FY25. The sales and services income, which includes the farmers market rental income and the park mobile and lease parking income, and that total is $3,980 with the total revenue received so far for $4,002. The expenditures consist of the capital outlay, that's the garage doors at the farmers market for $35,000. So your change in that position is $30,998. At the very bottom there, you'll see the net position beginning of the year for July 1st, which is also year ending FY24 balance, and that's $2,048,665. So your net position is now $2,017,667. In your email, you'll receive all the details as to what those numbers, the backup details for what the numbers mean, okay? The next report is just the notes of the financial statements. It covers your debt service payments and your loan balances. So both loans that we have end in fiscal year 2027-28. We have a starting balance of $398,145.51. We have payments scheduled of $105,425.81 for this fiscal year. And then that leaves a balance as of 6/30/2025 of $292,718.70. Do you have any questions?
I have a question, Kim. I find it curious that 398,000 of loans doesn't show up on the balance sheet. It shows no liabilities.
Talking about the first page.
Yeah.
For ending FY24.
And maybe I just don't understand municipal
Right.
accounting, but if we owe $300 and some $1,000, shouldn't that be reflected on the balance sheet?
So we're right in the middle of doing our audit right now, so the only thing that you recognize is for the following is 1 year's work. So that would be recognized, otherwise it's a long term, and that's in a separate section, so they may need to still do those journal entries. I'll make a note just to follow up on that, so.
So really, I see you're looking at the total versus the 1 year payment.
Well, yeah, we have 2 million in essentially cash, and then we're saying that the total liabilities and assets are that same 2,017,000, when in fact we know we owe 398,000. So I'm thinking that the total liabilities, et cetera, I'm thinking it should be more like $1,000,006.
Yep.
Because
I'll-
and then, of course, on the change in net position budget and actual, that's where you do show debt service on that.
Yeah, that's for
You see
those,
that?
that's for 1 year's.
Yeah, right. It's just for a year's worth of, it's not the total.
John, I mean,
Right.
if you were to be looking at the total debt service outstanding, because it does go into the future, you'd also then have to look at the revenue side of the annual revenues that are brought in on taxes and project that out at the same time, if you're going to balance things
Well,
out.
yeah, I mean, for a corporation, if you borrow money to buy a building, you have a current liability, which is that coming year's payments, and you have a long-term liability, which is whatever it is, for however, maybe 30 years into the future.
Government
Government's
accounting,
different.
local government accounting is different than private sector accounting.
Correct.
There are differences, yeah.
You'll see that in our financial statements at audit. It's all, it's not done on our balance sheets, it's done on the adjusted, yeah. It shows it like the conversion is the word I'm
As
looking
long as
for.
it's right, I'm
Yeah.
okay.
But they don't do it on this because we don't have any necessarily, it's been paid for the FY24.
Other comments? Questions? Okay, I need a motion to approve the financial report.
I move that we approve the financial report.
Okay, second.
Second.
John? Did you get that, Vicki and John? Vicki, take the
Okay.
motion, and John. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great. All right, in your packet, you had 3 sets of minutes. One was our May 7th regular meeting, then June 20th work session, and August 12th work session. If there's any changes, we can talk about that, or we can approve the minutes altogether if there are no changes. I know everybody has diligently read them.
I move we accept the minutes as presented.
For all 3 dates?
Yes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? Okay, did you get it? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? making sure, because
No,
I
I
know sometimes.
appreciate
Okay, let's move on to the next item on our agenda, and that is discussion, recommendation to allocate funds for the tree maintenance within the MSD. So Foster, will you please?
Good afternoon, everyone. So just to give you a little bit of background, there are two tree-related things that we have done. Back in 2020, we implemented phase one of installing perky pave around several of the trees in downtown, and that's taken the place of those steel tree grades. And so when Public Works did that back in 2020, they really focused on the majority of Middle Street, Craven, Pollock. It wasn't addressed on South Front Street. I don't believe it was addressed on the 100 block of Middle Street or Broad Street. Correct, George? So in my conversations with staff to basically complete that project, it's going to be about $12,500 in materials. That does not include labor. That's something that staff does, so it's cost for that. The other thing is, back in early part of 2023, we went through downtown and pruned quite a few of the trees, and a lot of them needed that. We have to prune again. What we have seen is South Front Street, that was not pruned, so if you actually look out in front of these buildings here, you see the trees growing into the canopy and the building itself. And on Middle Street, Pollock Street, and Craven Street, the trees we pruned last year, you see some dead spots, and so we're going to have to prune those things out. So the estimated cost from that the arborist has received is approximately $12,000 to do that. So total for a tree-related project is about $24,500.
Is most of the pruning of the branches that is towards the building, because I know where we live, I don't know if you experience that, Michael Lee, where you are, I mean, the tree just grows into the brick, and that's what, wears away the mortar and whatever. So those really, that side of it more so, we wanted, when we planted those trees in the 90s, the whole idea was to get some kind of, not an archway, but some kind of canopy to shade downtown. But they seem to grow more towards the building than they did towards the street. So will that be a priority to get them away from the building?
They'll look at all of the buildings as well. Most of the trees right now in the area that they pruned previously are still approximately 2 feet away. There may be a few branches that have grown in, but they will check that and make sure that it's pulled off appropriately. But that's something that we're going to have to do every few years anyway with these trees. As they continue to, these trees continue to get older, we're going to have to do replacements. I think we've done maybe 4 or 5 over the last few years. Some of them have taken, some of them have not, so we'll continue to do that. But a lot of these trees are root bound right now, and that's going to continue to be an issue. The Silcova is a great tree for downtown. Back when the Appearance Commission was in place, they talked about recommending another tree, but it really came back to this type of tree in downtown really worked.
We have a shallow root base.
So we do have a shallow root base, and we're also prevented from the buildings and also the curbing on where those roots can grow.
So I don't know if we need to get George to go down. I saw 2 people trip this in the last week on the uneven pavers that are on Middle and Pollock, both places. I saw people because it was, they're pushing up where the bricks, the rubber has done a great job, and I'm glad to have that, but I guess the roots are still coming up and pushing up the bricks where I'm afraid somebody's going to get hurt.
So the growing roots, that's a consistent issue. And so Public Works does inspect on a regular basis for those things. Of course, if anyone happens to see an issue with that, let us know. We'll make sure staff addresses that issue quickly.
I think this has maybe been addressed with George, but can you please make sure that the arborist includes the walkway along the Trent Riverfront?
Some of that, the tree removal in that area, the trimming, we do in-house between ourselves and Parks and Recreation.
But that's on your
Yes,
list.
it is. It is, especially with that arbor, I guess, on the tapestry side, down that direction. Yes.
Foster, what did you call that rubber mulch?
It's perky pave. That's the name
Like
of it.
percolation?
Yes, yes. Well, it could be a little bit of both.
Perky pave.
Let's all say that together.
3 times fast.
Thank you. It was in my packet. Perky pave.
Other questions regarding this information from Foster?
So does this complete the number of trees that have not
got the perky pave yet?
According to Public Works, that should complete that process, yes.
So Foster, will there be trees removed and new trees coming in at some point?
That's evaluated on an annual basis when the arborist comes by. And like I said earlier, as trees die out, yes, we have to replace those and install them. So we have funds already in place citywide for street trees where we install those trees, but this was something that we don't do in other parts of the city.
Okay, like for example, the tree in front of my place, because we can get up above the building
Right.
and our tree is dead. There's leaves, but at the top of that tree, that crown is dead. So, and the roots are pushing the brick up. So what is the procedure for, I mean, do you remove the brick, you take out the tree?
So the arborist will evaluate the tree in question. If they deem the tree is dead, then the tree will come out and a replacement will be installed.
With a brand new fresh tree, a
Brand new
little
fresh
guy
tree.
that will grow.
That's correct.
Anybody else?
Okay, if no other questions, we will need a motion, and this motion would need to state that we would ask the alderman to spend $24,500 for these two subjects of the pruning of the trees and the perky pave. So this again would go to the alderman, but it would be we would be recommending to spend this amount of money to make this happen. So I would need that motion.
Well, I move that we recommend to the alderman expenditures of approximately $24,500 for perky pave and tree maintenance.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Foster.
Okay,
George, get her done, right?
That's right, that's right. So the next item we have at the workshop, we talked about a project proposal form that we have where if citizens or visitors or whatnot were downtown and they thought, maybe that'd be a great project for the MSD, then that could be a nice, easy process for people to follow. And so we've got some information here, and I'm going to cover these guidelines and talk a little bit more about this. But the guidelines that we're proposing is any recommendations for projects would be submitted on the appropriate form, and that form is located online, and you can go to it at newbernnc.gov. If you look under the residential tab under the MSD, then that's where you will see this form. So forms can be submitted online, or you can also print one off, and you can email it in to msd@newbernnc.gov, and staff will retain those. Forms should be filled out completely. You've got the ability to upload pictures of examples of things if you'd like to. So if we receive forms before the regularly scheduled meeting and that agenda goes out, we will include that in an upcoming regular meeting agenda. We'll talk about the proposed projects and see if the board would like to make a recommendation to the governing board. And so projects that could be completed with MSD funds, of course, it has to be within the MSD district to use those funds. And so we included the statute on what are appropriate uses of those funds for anyone to see that information. Of course, it's up to this board if you want to recommend a project or not. So this board reserves the right to deny or accept a potential project or rank it however you choose to. And so on the next page, you'll actually see the website itself on where the link is located. You'll also see the form itself. There's a QR code. If you want to try it out, you can scan that on your smartphone and you can actually fill something out there and go from there. I received this, the clerk receives it, the public information officer receives it, and Rebecca Alford, my admin, receives it. So Rebecca's the one that's going to maintain this, and so we'll send this information out prior to each meeting if we have any forms. And happy to take any recommendations you may have, but this is live now, but it's easy to adjust.
I have a
Have some
suggestion.
discussion.
Should you make a link to this same MSD page? I see this is home residence MSD. Should there be home business MSD link as well?
Oh yes, wherever the MSD is, you can find it, and it may be under business as well.
Well, if it's
Yeah.
not under business, can they add it under business?
And Foster, can anyone send in this form in any of the 6 wards, the whole county? Right,
So-
anyone?
My recommendation would be yes, because this board is the one that's going to vet any potential projects and decide whether or not you want to recommend those projects to the governing board.
So if we start getting a whole bunch of recommendations through this application, and they can come from, do they have to only come from people in Ward 1, in the MSD footprint? Or it can just be any?
It can come from anyone. Now,
It must be within the footprint.
But it must,
Right, right,
yes,
yes,
only the
go through
MSD.
here, but you can live in Ward 3 or 5 or whatever and still
Have a
make.
suggestion.
Or Italy.
I like that, okay. Yeah, I want
Probably not.
suggestions from Italy.
It's not a bad idea, though. for-
No.
And my comment for
Visitors
that
have
is.
good ideas as well.
I was taken back for a minute and I said, why would I want somebody, you know, who
Right,
doesn't
and-
pay the tax to,
And-
you know,
recommendation.
make a recommendation, but at the end of the day, we would decide if that recommendation would go forward or
Yeah.
And
not.
then we can say that one came from Italy.
Yeah.
Yes, that was
I'm
from
not there
Portugal.
And, you know, a lot of people can have a lot of different ideas,
Yes.
and you may get something you think, wow, we've never thought about this. And so and that's the whole purpose of this committee, to vet those things. And so-
Nice, okay.
The only thing that, with that, if you get ideas over and over and over again, process of vetting, do we go through the process again and again and again?
No, you wouldn't.
Now,
Well,
we
you
just throw it out,
That's
we're talking
right.
about something, if
That's
you get the
right.
same request a month later,
Exactly, that's when you don't receive it. I mean, we've already got a record based in the minutes that at this time you're not interested in addressing it, so.
And on the form, is there just some kind of a reminder of how large the MSD is, like including these streets? And just, even though I know it's multiple places on the website, but it's always helpful to have it one more time.
It's not on the form, but it does address within the MSD boundary, and so you can obviously, there's no sense in creating that boundary map on every single thing.
Not a map, but just reminder that it's these streets to these streets.
We can do that.
Yeah, I think rather than the statute, instead of the statute, like a word
Mhm.
Yeah, just,
Definition.
these 7 blocks or
from
whatever.
the Trek River to Broad Street, from the Neuse River to Hancock.
Just
Street.
link them
Or
out.
link it back to another
Well, if
link
you
on
click
there.
the question mark that's in the black circle, at this point, it just repeats the same thing, but maybe put the definition there so that people could easily find the definition.
Or does the interactive zoning map have the limits of the MSD? It might be easy just to link it to that.
Right, or link it.
It possibly does, we'd have to look.
I
and
know it has a
see.
lot of different overlays.
Mhm, it does, and that's what can get confusing with some of those.
Other questions, other comments? Good job, Foster.
Yeah.
Thank you. Turned that around pretty quick.
I
Did a
know.
great job.
And
I was-
who
I
follows
was-
up, sorry, who follows up with the,
So staff will follow up with folks. If we need to reach out to those with additional questions, we'll vet it and make sure we get enough information. That way we can share that with the advisory board. And of course, we'll invite whoever submitted that information to them as well to that meeting.
Okay, with that being said then, I think we would need a vote to recommend. Again, would this have to go back to the Board of Aldermen as
No.
well? Okay, so we would have a vote to adopt this form as it shows us and the guidelines as our regular process now. So I would need that in a motion.
So moved.
Okay? Did you get that? Okay. So Davis, second, motion from Vaughn. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
so, I don't think we need it.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I'll.
Please register Mr. Robinson as a no.
Yeah, I don't think we need to vote on it.
Well, I think it's part of the process, and that's why I think it just makes it.
I think that's part of his job. I'm glad they said it.
Okay.
And he did a great job with it.
Next on the agenda is crosswalks. So Foster, we get George up here.
We're going to ask
He
George
brought
and
this
David to
before
come
us
up. Yes.
a couple of meetings ago, and we just wanted to follow up on it.
I would like to say tonight, I'm going to be able to defer to Dave Fishel, the Assistant Public Works Director, who has done a great job on this. Now that we have him on board as the staff engineer within Public Works, it's facilitated more timely response on some of the requests, and he's got information also on these intersections. As he'll go through, we looked at two different forms of this, which is one being utilizing a real brick crosswalk, which is similar to some downtown. And then there is option two, which is a stamped thermopave type crosswalk. And we have done cost allocations by intersection depending on what type of surface is chosen to be implemented in those sections. But I'll let Dave kind of go over this with you and how the prices were formulated.
Hello, everybody. I think a couple months ago, I was able to come in here. You guys took the first stab at looking at some crosswalk improvements in the downtown area with some pedestrian safety, but also taking into account those historical aesthetics and trying to make these match with that. We have looked at two primary surface treatments in that meeting, and one of the questions came up, made a couple adjustments, was doing more traditional brick, laying the whole brick, doing a brick crosswalk. So we're still looking at one of those surface treatment applications. We've taken a deeper dive into installing brick crosswalks, true brick crosswalks. The first page of the handout I gave you shows the intersections. We added two crossings on the Henderson Street intersections. It would just be the north-south crosswalk, essentially.
Are you talking about
Hancock.
Hancock, thank you.
And I have a question about that. Can we do that with the railroad? Will the railroad allow that?
Well,
We can't cross the track. We need to actually stay on the east side.
Okay.
Yeah. And so then with the three or the six original intersections from the previous meeting, running down Pollock Street and South Front Street. Another caveat to note, since we're looking at these pavement conditions, the roundabout that you see there at Front and Broad, the brick in that might be something for the group to talk about or consider replacing that brick. The existing brick in it isn't a true street rated brick. Street rated brick's a lot denser, a lot stronger. These aren't. With some of the trucks going over, you can see, it's probably all of your downtown often, you can see how the edges start to deteriorate and they rubbleize those when the equipment drags over them. So the next page shows some options for that roundabout. You could concrete it. The top picture shows what a stained concrete would look like in that apron. And then the middle picture shows replacing with the street brick. The crosswalks, if we were to go with the traditional brick, we want to try to match those aesthetics down there, like the existing crosswalk in front of the church on Pollock, or Middle Street. And the third page shows what that surface treatment. This is called pattern pave. It's a thermoplastic. It's like the paint that you see on the streets. They use a steel wire to get that brick pattern impregnated into that asphalt surface, and then they cover it with a thermoplastic covering to look like the bricks. Back on the first page, the Pollock Street intersections are a little smaller than the Front Street sections. South Front has a turn lane at those intersections, so they're a little less expensive. You're looking at about $53,000 an intersection for the pattern pave, the surface crosswalk. Along with that, we would resurface that intersection. That's a requirement. Not only some of the intersections would benefit from it, but you don't want to have to come back and repave or repair this intersection 3-4 years later if that asphalt is failing, because you want this when you be reapplying this treatment. If you went with the brick, the traditional brick, you're looking at about $108,000 an intersection. It'll last much longer, 30, 40, 50 years. Both systems, we would have the in-house ability to maintenance. If bricks got loose, we could replace bricks. If there was a trench cut, a utility repair that was necessary in that street, we could also apply that thermo application on the pattern paved system.
Are the bricks you're talking about, I mean, and I'm trying to think, on the Pollock Street, did we reuse the bricks that we had taken up? The original bricks that were underneath the streets?
Those were reused, yes.
Okay, are they eligible for reuse?
We could look into it, it's hard to say, if they were.
Because I know we got a
street
warehouse full
Yeah.
of them, don't we, have a bunch of them?
brick, And that could
They
be part
save
of
them all.
the process, working with the contractor, if they, can use those bricks to see how many we have, coverage. If we only had enough to do 3 intersections,
Maybe some,
Probably have a different
major
look.
intersections, something that, be
Yeah.
nice to reuse them since they actually
Yeah,
came
see
out
how
of
it
the street.
saves us on that.
Yeah.
I would like to say on some of those pavers, some are not to a quality to handle
The
modern
traffic.
traffic, and they deteriorate much faster. We can always look at getting a traffic rated paper that is tumbled, which makes it look a little bit more stark with different color variations. So there's modern materials we can use to get the same aesthetic look without having the material degrade so fast.
Understood, I just, if it's there at Christ Church, and it seems that it's worn pretty well, could we tend to reuse that, because they are just sitting in a yard someplace?
Well, and they were originally utilized for street paving.
Right.
The interesting thing about that is those papers were intended when they were made to be put on edge, not face displays where you see where they were kindled. So in an effort to save money, many cities lay them flat, but the actual installation factor almost set them on edge.
How many bricks do you have in storage, do you know?
Well, storage is a broad word. We have large mountains that have been excavated out of the roads. They've not been cleaned or separated or checked to see how many, which takes a considerable amount of time to clean those types of things.
We took, when you think about all the blocks downtown, they came out of Middle, Pollock, and Craven, and all of those were and maybe some from Broad Street too, when they redid Broad Street. I think they did them.
Every time we excavate.
Did you guys include a price for a crosswalk on Craven Street, connecting the Craven Street parking lot to the other side of the street, half block?
A mid-block, we did not include a mid-block, but we could provide that.
Yeah, and you can look, your mid-block crossing, it's about $12,000 for the thermo and about $26,000 for the traditional brick.
Yeah, it'd be very similar to a single leg on the east side of Hancock.
Foster, I've got a couple of questions on the roundabout. I see, I guess this picture on the bottom of the first page is the deterioration of the brick at the roundabout. Well, isn't that where the trucks, because they can't get on the roundabout, they're coming up on the curb? That's really the result of that, correct?
The
Because that wasn't made for cars that go on.
Correct. There are multiple issues with the traffic circle, one being the diameter. It is currently 30 feet. DOT mini roundabout, which is the smallest they want to install, is 50. So it can't accommodate larger trucks. And what we see is not necessarily the entire traffic on it, but it's a frame of a longer trailer that hangs up on the center of it. So regardless of the material we put back, we could probably put back something that could withstand a trailer being drug on it, but it would likely not be the thermo pattern, it would peel that off.
Well, that roundabout, there's no, the sidewalks don't direct you to go inside of the circle. So those sidewalks are just decorative anyway, right?
And we've had a couple conversations about what we thought we could do at differing price ranges. One of an easy way to address it to see if it handles it a little bit better with the wear without taking all the brick out is go 3 courses in, take those bricks out, and then put concrete in there. So the frames would scar on the concrete, which would not tear the brick up as easily.
Would you leave the existing
And leave the rest of the roads
which
in
is
there.
not
Damaged.
road, but that's also not road rated? Is
No,
that
they're
just-
not traffic rated pavers.
They're like garden pavers?
But for pedestrian walking.
Okay.
So one question I have, are you presenting the roundabout proposing crosswalks there, or are you presenting it just to show the deficiency with the brick?
Yeah, it was something, it's more of a talking point than a decision point with crosswalks. Since crosswalks were using brick, we may use brick in this roundabout too, so it was a similar application but different.
Yeah, so you're not proposing
It should be
crosswalks at the
standalone,
roundabout?
correct, yeah.
Okay.
Well, there's crosswalks on East Front, but nothing on Broad Street that goes across there. I'd love to see a crosswalk on Broad Street.
Well, I think there's a lot going on there, and I think we may want to wait with whatever the county's going to do with that property. I hate to spend the money to do this, and there's something different. The pier, I still don't know what you're going to do with the street, you know, the parking that would lead to the pier at the end of that area. That would, you know, that may redevelop that area, so I really would, my opinion is just to take that off the table for discussion right now. There's too many what-ifs, and concentrate on some of the other crosswalks. I agree that I agree that we do need some connectivity for people that are coming down there. I just think the future is kind of up in the air.
Too soon.
Yeah.
I
can revisit.
I agree, I have a front row view of that, and there's too much going on right now, and I think we need to see what the new traffic patterns are going to be with the Shriners and the pier, but it is definitely an issue that needs to be raised later.
Then also in the handout, the last two pages show maybe kind of sort of a total cost for those crosswalks only. Looking at that pattern pave system, you're around $360,000 for those highlighted intersections, and in the traditional brick, you're at about $744,000.
And where would you, what do you think, or could you work up figures for the stored brick, the review, the cleaning, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? And add that into the matrix?
We could pull some costs and get some quotes for adding it.
Or do we want to take that off the table?
I think we should look at all the.
If we have them, we should look.
I was going to ask that. I was going to ask, is cleaning those bricks economically viable, or are we better off just buying new? Because if we're paying $5 a brick to get someone to wire brush them,
Right.
we can buy a brand new one for $2, and I don't think that's smart money.
But they're historical.
You stop and think that every time you walk across Christ Church, right?
And that's a good point. That's how we would have to, if we were to deliver this project, a contract, we would need to have those bricks cleaned and ready for that contractor to use. I don't know if we would keep finding a contractor that would go through the effort of doing the cleaning themselves. It might not be their skill set.
Figure out something.
What about the community college? Don't they have the masonry program over there? I mean, I wonder if reach out to them. That might be a thing. I mean, it might be a long-term thing. Reach out to them and say, okay, can you do this maybe a year or 5 years from now, we got it done.
Yeah.
It's hate for them not to be used.
Yeah.
Okay, do something with it. Would be good where we can put them. Is it more economical to do it all together, or is it something that we could take section by section to spend the money? Because it's a large sum of money. That would really be a financing project for us, I would think, rather than, even though we may have the funds, I think it would be better to, Kim, you can find cheap money, can't you?
Do these quotes include also repaving beforehand? I know some of them are in bad shape, some of the projects are in bad
Yes,
shape.
all those intersections within that footprint of those crosswalks inside would be free.
Okay.
What about taking a look at the subgrades? I know if you don't have adequate under drains, you know, that really causes the degradation of pavement. Are there opportunities to put sub-drains and tie into?
Yes, we've been including in our bid documents now with some of our street projects, some grading, some finish grading, where they come in and mill up the street. And then the contractor can come in and make sure that we have good stable base and it's draining appropriately, they can grade it accordingly.
But I mean, underneath though, you have sub-drains within that base to tie it to a storm sewer if there's one around. And I know we have the high water table and all that stuff to deal with.
Yeah, I'm not sure myself if there is any sort of under drainage system on those existing streets down there. Looking at putting one in might that might be a little more, that might take some time and effort to see how that would look and how we would tie that into to existing drainage, the drainage system. That's what I'm doing there. But I assume with the street right now, it seems, your base seems for the most part in good condition down there. It's rated fairly good. You've got utility patches in some of those intersections. I think that might gives you the idea you might have some base issues. But that can be addressed when we do the intersection work with that finished grading that we call it with the contractors.
Foster, is there anybody on city staff that can look at grants? I don't even know through Main Street or something, maybe using historical brick. Is there any?
We look at them all the time.
Okay,
We look at them all the time.
You know, is it possible that there's some grant money to do something specialized here because it could be, you know, a Main Street type program?
There could be, and we'll talk with our grant folks to see.
Okay. If not,
So,
wait, John, let me just get Johnny to this.
when we borrowed money, two questions. Number one, what's the normal amortization period? Number two, what's the current interest rate for that type?
It just depends on what Kim can find. That's her job. She bids it out and sends it to the different banks, and then they respond and say what the rates.
So
That's how
it's
it's been.
private, then it's not
Yeah.
privately financed with the bank to the city.
Right.
Okay.
We'd have to take a look at some financials, take a look to see what would be our best way to handle it. I believe.
I was just thinking about the buy a brick program where you buy a historical brick for $25 and the brick costs, a new brick is $10 versus cleaning the brick for $12. So then we're still coming out ahead on a fundraiser to buy a brick.
And it would be a historic
A
street brick.
historical brick that you
I
have
love
in
that.
storage. And at $25 a brick, you know, I mean, I'd probably buy 8 bricks, you know, I'd buy more than one, so.
Are we set up to do anything like that in the city? I'm not sure.
Parks and Recreation currently has a big brick paper program, and I'm thinking that those bricks start at $50, but it's gotten a lot more expensive, especially when you're doing the laser engraving.
Yeah,
on
but we're
those
talking
things.
about buying the bricks that we have, our
Right,
bricks that are sitting out in the
Well-
warehouse. Could we sell
They
those?
just need to be clean.
Well, they have to be cleaned, you have to find somebody that could engrave them, so that you're gonna have shipping.
No, not to reuse, for somebody just to
Ah,
buy the brick and take it, correct?
There you
Yes, take it home with them.
Like the Broad Street
Broad
Brick
Street
program
did,
they
yes,
did,
I have that
yeah.
one at the house. So they did, when they were taking up Broad Street, they got some of those bricks,
Mhm.
and they were, I think it had an engraving on it, didn't it, Mickey?
They had the manufacturer engraving, but they
Yeah.
also sold it with a
Oh, with a
little
little
wooden
plate,
plaque.
yeah.
Brass plate on
Right.
it.
And you got it that way. Raised money, I think, for the Historical Society.
Preservation.
Sorry. But great, you know, that's a great
Yeah,
idea. I don't know if we would be set up to do something, but if they're just gonna sit in the warehouse.
We could certainly look
bring
into
the
that.
old. Okay.
I'm also wondering, okay, the thermo brick versus the real brick. Okay, so 50,000 for the thermo, 108 for real brick. The thermo would last 10 years,
For the most part, the life of the pavement.
which
So,
is
10, 15 years.
10 or 15 years, where the real brick will have a life of 40 to 50 years. So then maybe the cost is about the same because we have a life expectancy of real brick.
Absolutely.
So it might be cheaper to really consider real brick in the long run, maybe?
I would agree with that.
Okay.
I would agree with that. Another, one of the questions regarding splitting the projects up, you know, it's gonna be more expensive when you split it up, but it might be more affordable long-term. Just mobilizing a contractor in there, the disruptions of traffic, that's everything to think about. These brick crosswalks, we will have to close those intersections. So when we get that far into that design of that project, there will be probably a lot of coordination to see how that would be staged out, closing those intersections. The thermo can be done at night, so that might be a little easier animal to tackle, if that was the decision.
So let's say B.
My personal last idea using the real brick, it lasts much longer. I mean, What was the time frame of thermo versus you said 30 years? on
Probably 10 to 15 years, really as long as that pavement is stable in there, that thermal will stay on there. You'll get some wear, you might get some some fading, discoloration. And essentially the brick is going to stay there for as long as that street's stable. You can mill around it, you don't have to impact it. If you have a utility issue, that trumps everything, you're going to be needing that out. But as far as just general road, the longevity of a road, that brick is going to last much longer.
I guess what my suggestion might be is that, I think it needs some more research, discussion, maybe kick this to say, yes, we're interested, we'd like to go, but we'd like to see if we can finance this, if there's any grants, other things that we might do with the cost, and put something together to come back to our October meeting and not necessarily say, okay, we recommend this, send it to the alderman, we just need to see, can we finance this? I mean, we're talking almost $1 million when it's 700 and, if we went with the brick. 744, so, is that something?
Financing it will probably be cheaper in October than it will be today.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you can narrow it down, that if you're interested in this, if you want to go with the brick, let us know. We've heard the comments that everyone's made, so staff can go back and get that information and come back at the next meeting.
Okay, so how many people would be in favor, by show of hands, favor of brick? Okay, I think it's unanimous, so we would like to go with the brick. And so, look at the pricing on that, see what we come back at. And also, could you bring back to the meeting too about, could we sell those bricks? I'd love that idea. I think it would be great and get everybody excited about this project that we would be doing in the MSD.
And just to clarify, this does not include the roundabout. Do we want to continue that discussion later, or do we want to follow that up?
I think we really need to wait until after we see what the county's going to do and we finish our pier project down there.
And I don't mean crosswalks, I mean the
Right,
damage
yes.
issue. Okay.
And I have a
Do that all
question
at
about-
one.
Yes.
I have a question about the roundabout. I wonder whether that really should be an MSD expense as opposed to a city expense, because that, it's part of the infrastructure for traffic circulation. And part of that is also, is that a state road?
No, it's not state road.
That
Not
got
anymore.
given after the drawbridge, that was
That's
part of the
correct.
deal. Anyhow, I think that's a question that we need to think about, whether MSD should be, no
Now,
one
I would-
thoughts on that.
Yeah,
There's no-
I would agree that if we put a piece of art in the middle of it or did something like that, I could see MSD funds, but I agree with you.
I also, and not to belabor the issue, but, and I don't know if it's been raised in other meetings, but the whole issue of semis and 18-wheelers going around the traffic circle, has that ever been discussed, is to not allow those to go around the traffic circle? They just have to make corners.
I'm going to let George respond to that.
We have had a lot of conversations about that, and one of the things we're working with DOT, is in the implementation of the new signage on the new interstate, which would direct truck traffic. So when the software that truckers use for getting into town would direct them to the first street off-ramp, rather than sending them downtown. So eliminate a lot of it. Now, the caveat to that is, you have destination trucks, and they're not restricted from going on a street if their destination is somewhere on that street or in the vicinity. So we'll still have tractor trailers coming down there.
Sure. But less than, yeah.
Less than we have now. We have, a lot of times I see moving trucks that would have been better served coming down front, even if they're going into the historic side, the home side, residential side of Broad. They would have been better served coming from another direction. Their traffic software doesn't always send them that direction. So we're working on that. But I would say we've seen a lot of damage to the brick with the associated construction to the county courthouse and a lot of these projects downtown, even our city hall annex where things were being delivered. So the growing period, I'm not going to say that construction will continue at some other locations. We'll always have some type of issue. But hopefully we get the 70 project done and DOT implement some signage changes on this.
I'm guessing that it's not feasible to redesign that circle in conjunction with extending Broad Street, et cetera.
If we can acquire some adjacent property to widen the right of way, yes. And it doesn't impact everyone in this room, but some it does.
Eminent domain.
I mean, I'm
Just
thinking that with the townhouses there, you can't
We
really,
couldn't come that direction, that's correct.
but the county and the city own a lot of that.
John, you want to go to the county and raise that discussion?
Not particularly.
You could just foster.
Let's talk eminent domain.
That's what I said.
The dirty word.
That's what I said.
Okay, all right, so Foster, do you have direction, I
Sure do.
believe, from this group, and we'll come back in October? We're really making progress today, thank you all.
And
This
I
is
want
a
to make
good
one more
decision.
comment if I may. You know, at first, when I looked at the picture of the concrete circle, I thought, man, that's just not okay. But when I think about the fact that there is 0 pedestrian crosswalks onto that island, I mean, the only time pedestrians would be there would be, I don't know, are we still doing the Christmas?
We're not.
No, they
There
have
is
the
a-
Christmas
there
tree.
is a Christmas tree there.
But it's not like
It's
the
not.
the
It's
city
not the
tree they
lighting of
took
the
away
main
because it was
tree.
too dangerous.
But I think I may be able to get over the stained concrete, knowing that it's removed. Or that maybe be appropriate to ask MSD if we'd be willing to pay the upcharge for concrete to street bricks, the differential. But anyhow, that's not today's topic.
Yeah, and Mumfest. People walk on it during Mumfest.
The whole safety thing and not getting people out there because it is really dangerous. Okay, next on our agenda, thank you all for that discussion, is just the review of the ad hoc committee assignments for the intercourse. So at our work session, we had a couple of people that weren't here. We went ahead and assigned 3 ad hoc committees and assigned people to those committees. And the first one was the trash committee, and that was going to be looking at the assignment, the location of the trash, the compactors, and we had several tasks on that. And that ad hoc committee is made up of Dave, Michael, and Vaughn, and they've already started working. Also, too, I'm going to ask Dave very quickly, or Vaughn, you did a great job with the opinion, but they did, Alderman Prill brought up at our work session a new concept of someone that he had met where it would, I guess, degrade the food or dehydrate the food, and so they actually had a Zoom call. So I'm going to let y'all just update this group on that, since Alderman Prill asked us to look at that very quickly. Do you want to?
Vaughn had the
Okay.
wonderful opinion.
Yeah, he did.
So it's a new dehydration system that basically takes all the food waste into a machine, the smallest machine, was I think 4x5, something like a parking space. They're meant to be indoors. That one only goes maybe 100, 150 pounds of food waste. I was told by the, I guess you call him the salesperson, that the average restaurant produces about 250 to 350 pounds per day of food waste. Now, these machines run 2 cycles, but they're 10-hour cycles. 8 hours for dehydration, 2 hours for cooling before it can be removed, the byproduct of filtered sterile water or dirt, basically. But with downtown, I don't know if it's the best solution for us because we're so disjointed and trying to get everybody coordinated on a 10-hour schedule to run these things when you'd need a much bigger unit to facilitate sharing units. And with the space restriction we have in downtown buildings, we don't really have indoor space for that type of machine. In my opinion, that's kind of how I felt about it. A plant size outside of the MSD, that goes out of our purview, could facilitate, then that brings in third-party haulers and more taxpayer money.
I appreciate that, and Alderman Pearl, thank you for bringing that forward to them. Just wanted to update everybody since we talked about it at the last meeting. But you all will be meeting, and you'll come back to us in October, and we'll try to see what you think to come forward with. The next committee that we have is the Beautification Ad Hoc Committee, and that is Michael Lee, and Carol and Gretchen, and I believe you had a meeting already, a little gathering,
We did.
and you're getting some highlights together. I know there's still a lot more work that needs to be done.
We are. Yeah, we have a list of things we discussed. I can talk about it, or Gretchen, do you want to mention
Do
anything?
you want us to wait and hold off till October?
Yeah, I think, just, if there's anything you need really quickly, this is just a review and discussion. If anybody, really needs any more additional help or anything, because you really need to have several meetings to flesh things out. And what I think it'll look like, probably a work session where we'll come back and basically have some flip charts and start, saying what we do and then
We
decide.
discussed this.
Okay,
This is
perfect.
Bear Plaza, right? All of Bear Plaza, which now we park on most of it. But I'm thinking about the buy a brick thing. We could do that for this. We could brick this.
That's actually a really good idea.
That's
This- You're not, other than if we do where it would be driving over, but that's a different point. But
Right,
it's something we
but
can
I'm
look
just
at.
thinking about the
Yeah, that's
historic
a really good
bricks, because everybody could enjoy that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And then the third ad hoc committee we have is the parking, which would look at the ingress and egress and the loading zones or whatever, and that would be Johnny, John, and Nick. So do you all need anything from us, or are you good to go on that? You're going to have a meeting soon?
After this,
Okay, good. Okay. All right, anybody have any questions on our ad hoc committees or anything we're doing there? Just wanted to make sure, because we had some people missing the last time, that we're all up to speed. Okay, the next portion of our meeting is the public comments. So we had set up a public comment session for anybody who'd like to do that. This board decided that we would give 3 minutes to each person that would like to come forward, and they would have to state their name and address when they made public comment. So with that being said, does anybody in the public, would they like to make comments? Hey, Bill?
Yeah.
If you'll just come right here and...
Happy to. Bill Troik, I own property at 217, 221 Hancock. Just for clarification, Foster, on number 4, you did not mention Hancock Street in the tree pruning, and I just wanted to know if that was an oversight. I didn't hear it correctly, or if that was an oversight.
If there are any trees that need to be pruned on Hancock, they will certainly address that, at least anything that's in the MSD.
And it is in the MSD, so, in the spirit of the MSD, which also could mean my special desire, I would also ask you to do that.
Thank you, Bill. Is there anybody else?
Yes. I am Richard Hall. I live at 210 Hancock Street, have a business at 208 Hancock Street, and a couple of other buildings still in there. I wondered if I'll ask the same question I asked 2 months ago. Has there been any recommendations for the parking lot, or for the area at the corner of Hancock and South Front? We were waiting for that fancy committee to come with something, and have they come up with something, or have there been future discussions on how that area is going to be used?
So the one thing I want to say is, when you do your public comment period, how do you want responses? Do you want to wait till you receive comment, or?
Yeah, I don't think we ever decided. We just said that, I'm trying to go through my notes here. We would just allow 3 minutes, name, address. I don't know that we said we would respond or not respond.
Because I can respond to that in just a minute, but you're getting ready to set a precedent if
Correct.
staff starts responding to every single thing. That's why I want to see how you want
It's
to
the
do it.
pleasure of this committee, how you feel. Do you want staff to respond when they speak? Forgive us as we go through this first public hearing portion. Do you want to allow response? The Board of Aldermen does not have a response. They allow people to speak and say what they want, and then staff can always follow up after they have that.
Well, I don't know, I feel like we're a small committee, and if the public is coming, they should have a little bit of a voice, a little bit stronger of an opinion, because we're doing the forum for them to be able to say what they want to say. So if you have an opinion, yeah, I would like to.
And if the answer is readily available,
Yes.
and this is
We
just
want
a
to be
dialogue.
consistent on this,
Right.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, we
Yeah.
received the recommendations from the IEDC on Friday evening. So I'm actually going through, they sent 3 booklets that are about 50 pages each with their recommendations. I'm going through that now. Once I go through that, I'll give them my final comments, then we'll send that out to the governing board, talk about that. We'll also make it available to the public.
A time schedule approximately?
Approximately a week or 2. Yep, yep. Because I have it, I'm just reviewing it myself right now.
And then how will that information be put out? By emails or?
Yes, we could send it out to everyone in the MSD. It'll also be on our website, and we're going to be talking about it with the governing board also. And I'll be happy to send you a copy.
Yes, thank you.
Hey, Heather Sinclair, 214 Main Street. I just have a couple of things today. One, with the ad hoc committees, I'm most interested in finding out the ones that are doing the trash. Are you talking, like, who's involved in, like, knowing exactly who needs trash? Like, I know that the restaurants are aware of each other, but like we're on the other end, we have some of our own trash that will stay. But, you know, me personally, I'm interested in how it's going to be for the cardboard dumpster. And I don't know that anybody's talking to us, so I'm kind of curious as to how you're talking to everybody that would be involved in that. That's one thing.
First off, the work session where this was established, Karen gave me a list of,
Karen from Swiss Bear.
Swiss Bear gave me a list of what Swiss Bear has for that, including the property owners and how things are allocated. So what I recently did was download the recent tax records, and I'm reconciling it with her list. And thank you for speaking out, because I think it would be good to then, once we have that established, reach out to you folks just to validate, you know, what type of trash service you are currently receiving and maybe what you need.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean.
Yeah, and we're kind of an interesting situation because we have needs, we have personal, and then we have outside needs.
And I think we ought to just go down the list and check off who we, and annotate who we've spoken with, because Vaughn brought up a good point that there are property owners in there who are not really necessarily the businesses that are operating in those buildings, so, and may not be, the property owner may not be the one that's responsible for paying for that trash service and so forth, so we need to reconcile that also.
Right. The other thing,
Can I add a comment to that, just before you move on to a new topic? I think it's important to remember that this committee, at an early meeting, decided that the various property owners of that inner core, including the property owners in your building, some of them are happy to play ball in a cooperative effort, and some of them have been reluctant to play ball. And so we made the decision that we can't. This has been on the table for like a decade to address this issue. And I think our decision was we can only control what we can control, and that is the city-owned property. And so what they are addressing is what can be done on the city-owned property and potentially with some adjacent property owners where the circulation and stuff is involved. I think we would love to have a bigger solution for the entire block, but that's been very difficult. It's hurting cats, and so we decided we'll eat the elephant one bite at a time. That may sound discouraging to you, but
well, then I guess my question is like, we are sort of part of the inner core. We happen to have a private parking lot that backs up onto an easement that is private, although we're part of that whole, I consider it like we are this side of the inner core, the Raddies. So, I'm sure Carol will be involved in the trash because she needs it. It's very confusing to me because I as a business owner need cardboard. there is no place on our property to have enough of a cardboard, something for me to use my cardboard, and possibly the other businesses, depending on what they are at a given time.
Do you need cardboard on your end? I think the issue has been is that we couldn't get the people on your end of the area, restaurants and others, that would want to walk or use the one that was going to be on city property or on the other end.
We
That was
walk now.
okay. Well, the issue back then was we couldn't find
But we were
private
never,
property.
we were never talked to by Spruce. I mean, that was a problem.
Again, I don't know what the list
I mean,
was.
there was
I don't
lots
know
of
what their list was.
emails that I sent, so, but we don't need to go over that. It's just that over the years, it's changed where I used to take a box and put all my cardboard in it and it would get picked up, but those days are gone. So, and that's not our fault, and we just need to know that we can be a part of that.
And just to clarify something, John, I know what we talked about was focusing on city property for proposed improvements, because that's really the extent of what our authority is. But in the spirit of trying to come up with the best solution, I am looking outside of city-owned property as far as who contributes to that trash. So that does mean reaching out to those property owners and business owners and so forth. So that's part of the information gathering.
And there's
So
trash, and then there's recycling,
Yeah.
which might be the same, but it's not to me.
We-
But
we've
it's
talked-
two different.
we've
it's
talked
handled
about that
two
in our-
different ways. So
Right,
that's the
but,
problem.
that's something that we need to know about. We don't have a trash problem. We do have a recycling issue. And so we want to be part of that discussion, and when the dumpsters went in, no matter how hard you tried, we couldn't get a response back. So, and that's really hard. So what do you do? The other, is that it? The other thing I've noticed is, because there's been discussion about the crosswalks, one of my observations on this end of Middle Street is, the pavers and everything do draw attention to the crosswalk itself. To me, the biggest problem, especially on this corner down here, is, and we get a lot, I'm out on the street some, I see it a lot just when I'm leaving work in my car, is we've got a lot of people going to the hotel, a lot of people parking down there, there's a lot of them on Saturday morning, coming from the farmer's market, crossing over. To me, this and maybe some other key places in the crosswalk need walk signs, that all the cars have to stop and pedestrians can walk, and that's the sign that has the picture that tells you can walk. Because even now, if a pedestrian has the right of way, somebody can always turn, and they're always like looking, because you cannot trust the cars. They don't understand the rules about pedestrian crossing. And I know that the light up on Broad and, Middle is being changed. I almost watched somebody get run down there, even with the lights flashing. They just don't pay attention. And I think those all the way stops, with the lights that tell you you can walk are extremely important. And I think people coming from other areas are very used to those now. That's what they have where they live. And it's a peace of mind, I know that's not cheap, I don't know how that works, but I think that's something that's very important to look at besides just seeing the crosswalk, because the cars don't care. I mean, they just don't. And I'm not even in my car that much to see it, and I see it all the time.
I would like to point out we have this new project nomination form. That might be the first one.
Okay, I think that's all I have right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would also like to just add something, just because I'm on on the 200 block of Middle Street, and downtown's very, very vibrant. Come 5 o'clock until 11, it's very vibrant and it's great. But what I have noticed an increase in is people racing from Pollock Street to the corner of South Front Street. Mufflers, motorcycles, vroom, and I mean literally racing and slamming on their brakes as they get to that stop sign. So it's just people cruising, they're cruising the boulevard, that's what they're doing, they're showing off, I get it. It's
Middle or
fun.
Creighton?
Middle Street. Well, I do business on Middle, I don't know what's going on Craven, but I know what's going on Middle Street, and I see a huge increase in that, but they're cool cars, they're loud, they're awesome, you know, and they're, you know, and they like to do a little racing from one corner to the next corner. And I get it, because it's fun, it's a fun thing, so.
I hear them late at night.
One of my cooks was hit by one of
Yes,
those
you
cars.
know,
Yeah,
really?
guy drove on.
Take a picture.
We still don't know it, but
Okay, so,
it was late at night.
so when you talk about blinkers, maybe that is good, it just, if we can keep people really slow on Middle Street, Pollock, I mean, it might be just keep it, if we want to turn it into more of a walkable district, maybe we need more speed bumps, maybe, just think about it, Okay.
Okay, anybody else have any other comments? Anybody else? Okay, our next regularly scheduled meeting is October the 17th. So please, we changed that from our other date at our last meeting, so just please note, it'll be here at this facility. So does anybody have anything else for the good of the order? If
Did we
not,
want to arrange a work session to
I'm gonna-
discuss an ad hoc committee?
Well, I'll have to get it out. We need to look at the calendar, because October's pretty busy with Mom Fest and everything else going on. I will get that to you soon. I'm gonna look at it with the chamber. It's not had a lot of dates in October. That's why we had to change this one too, so. I will get back to you. Yes, we will be having a workshop. All right, anybody else have anything? If not, can I get a motion to adjourn? Okay, Johnny? John? Okay, all those in favor? Yes. Thank you all. Good to